Welcome to the Lyons Share. I'm Mark Elliott, joined by the founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. That, of course, is Mitch Lyons. Glad you are with us. We talk retirement. Where are you on that road to retirement? You think about the questions. Can I retire? Do I have enough? Will my money last? Are we going to be okay if we retire? A lot of moving parts in retirement. If you have any questions, you can always learn more just by going to Mitch's website, MitchLyonsWealth.com. And it's Lyons, Lyons, MitchLyonsWealth.com. I'm Mark Elliott. Glad you are with us. We'll give you numbers to get a hold of Mitch. We'll give you some opportunities to get his book, The Retirement of Steel, from his Pittsburgh Steelers days. That's kind of the theme of that one, but it's about retirement. It's Discover How to Protect Your Wealth. We'll give you that opportunity to get the book today as well. But today, Mitch, we're going to talk about the financial house. And I always think it's interesting. Your NFL career, you think about going into a game plan every single week, depending upon the opponent. And I would imagine, especially your rookie year with the Falcons, my guess is that game plan was much different than the Steelers' game plan, because that was June Jones, Mouse Davis, and the run and shoot, and that was not exactly Bill Cowher's theory of football, was it?
No, not at all. Yeah, it's great to be with you, Mark. Thanks. Jerry Glanville and June Jones' run and shoot offense was a lot different than what I ran into in Pittsburgh. And frankly, my game was more suited for that Pittsburgh style, a little smash mouth football. And, so my time in Pittsburgh was probably better spent than my time down there with a high flying wide receiver focused offense. But I got drafted down there because Jerry Glanville wanted to start incorporating a tight end into his offense. And I played quite a bit my rookie year. And then when Jerry got fired, then it kind of went straight run and shoot. So job security was good. I was the only tight end on the roster, but the upside wasn't real high. But yeah, you're right. It all came down to game plans, and they were vastly different in each location.
And really, everybody you sit down with, their game plan is unique to them. They could say, well, hey, you need $1 million to retire. Well, maybe it's not enough. Maybe it's way too much. You don't even need that much. Everybody's situation is unique. So we're going to talk about building your financial house, your fiscal financial house. And I guess if you think about the big bad wolves and the houses of straw and stone and brick and all that kind of stuff. Did you ever tell your kids the big bad wolf, the story?
Oh yeah, I loved reading that one.
The three bears and the wolves and all that.
Yeah, no, that was great, and it's a great analogy, right? I mean, it's there's a lot of correlation, and when we talk about game planning, there's a lot of correlation between football and prepping for a game, and frankly, prepping for retirement. And that's what I love about it. Every game's different. Every retirement's different, right? There's no rules of thumb in retirement. Rules of thumb, will lose you money real fast. And every plan is tailored to our specific client, each individual client, because everybody's wants are different, right? What do you want retirement to look like? It's one of the first questions I ask people. What do you envision in retirement, right? And it's different for different people, and so it's important to craft your plan and set that blueprint for what you want, not what the rule of thumb say.
So you think about the Three Little Pigs, right? You had the what was it? Straw. Man, I'm so old now.
Sticks.
I can't even.
Well, straw, sticks, and bricks. I think it was.
Yeah. So you think about that. How is your fiscal house built? So we're going to talk about the foundation. We're going to talk about the walls, and we're going to talk about the roof. And one of the things I always think is interesting is when most people come in to sit down with you for that first time, Mitch, my guess, because we're in a 401k retirement world, unlike my parents and grandparents certainly were, that were a pension retirement world, today it's the 401k IRA world. I would think most people have probably at least 90% of their retirement sitting in the roof when they come see you for the first time, don't they?
Well, you're exactly right. Most people's net worth is two things: 401k or a retirement plan at work, whether that's a 401 or 403b or 457, whatever it might be, and under their literal roof, right? Their home. Those are the two biggest assets typically people have. Well, the home's not going to do you much good in creating income for you. So we really need to focus on, that 401k is that, that's one method of, building wealth, but is it the only way to, effectively put your retirement in a place where it's going to pay you income for the rest of your life?
So where do we start in building that fiscal financial house?
Well, I think the first thing, if you're going to build a house, you want to you want to draft up a plan, right? What do you want it to look like? Which we just talked about. Design it accordingly, lay the plan out as how you want it built, and then it starts with the foundation, right? That's kind of where you got to sink those footings in and pour some cement and make sure your house isn't going to get blown away in a storm. So when I think about that, I think about, okay, protection, right? Well, protect against the risk of retirement, right? What's that retirement tornado? Well, retirement tornado could be a number of things. It could be living too long. It could be health issues, needing long-term care. It could be, market risk, things that can upend your retirement in a hurry. So that foundation is critical to make sure we're laying the proper foundation to keep the strength of your retirement intact.
But we're talking about retirement stuff. We're going to do it every week on this program. I hope you stay with us. I think you're going to gain a lot of insight into some of the challenges of retirement. But you think about it, when you go into a game plan, whether it was the Falcons or the Steelers or even at Michigan State, everybody's got a game plan. Now, we have a game plan, and they always, like Mike Tyson said, you got a game plan until you get punched in the mouth. And that's kind of what can happen. The game plan, some coaches are great at halftime in making adjustments, others not so much, but that's kind of what you do. You're going to create a game plan, and things aren't just going to work perfectly the entire time, so you've got to have some what-ifs in there probably.
Well, there's no question about that, and that's what I love. The parallels of that football game and the things that go right. You go into the game with a great plan. You're gonna pound the ball. Well, that looks great on paper until they bring the eighth defender down into the box, and all of a sudden every gap's covered, and you're going to have to pass the ball. Right? You're going to have to force their hand and make them take that defender out of the box. So no different in retirement. I always tell folks, listen, we're creating a plan right now for you. It's a rifle shot in time. It's at one point in time. As we go forward, that's going to have to evolve, right? Because things are going to change. The market's going to go up and down. Social Security increases or pension increases, those kinds of things that affect your retirement. Tax rates change. We have to incorporate that into the plan going forward, right? And readjust. And as an old coach of mine used to say, we have to midstream adjust. You just can't stay status quo forever. Because you're gonna run into problems doing that.
Yeah, I think it's an easy way to understand. I don't understand what you do, how you do what you do. I understand the basics, but I don't know the nuts and bolts of it. Kind of like an NFL game plan. There's some serious nuts and bolts that weren't like what I had in college. I can guarantee you that. Because our play calling was simple. It was blue right 24. That was a 2 back to the 4 hole. That would be really simple. Those quarterbacks in the NFL are saying much more than that.
They are. They've got a mouthful. You hear Peyton Manning's and Tom Brady's. They're spewing out a paragraph, and it's tough. It's the toughest position in sports. And retirement can be complicated too. But I'm a big believer in keep it simple, stupid. Right, the KISS method. And it doesn't have to be, and I think people get intimidated by retirement planning because it seems so complicated. You see a lot of these firms out there, retirement planning firms or investment managers, throwing 50-page reports at people. It's just overwhelming, right? And what I try to do with folks is say, listen, let's keep it real simple. We use a 3-bucket approach. We've got an income bucket, a protected bucket, and a market bucket. At the end of the day, in retirement, what you need is a paycheck. You're giving up your job. The paycheck's done. Now you've got to convert that 401 or whatever other assets you have, and you got to convert that into income. That's number one, because that's what keeps you happy. That's what keeps the lights on. We got to create that paycheck for life. Could be a number of sources. Could be Social Security, and maybe a pension if you're fortunate enough to still have one of those. Could be maybe some income from rental properties or whatnot you might have. Or annuity income. So all those sources add up to that income bucket. And then you got the protected bucket. That's going to be assets that are protected from market volatility. They're accessible, they're liquid, but you're not going to lose your tail when the market loses 30%. And then the market bucket, hey, that's the market. It's going to go up and down. We're not going to sweat it though, because we're not dependent on it next month for our check, right? So it's a 3-step process, the 3-bucket process that simplifies it for people and it makes it understandable.
And that one I think is the key, because I think for me right now, if the market goes down while I'm working, I don't really care. It gives me an opportunity to buy more. The market now becomes on sale. If we're in retirement, and we talked about it, most people come to you with most of their stuff sitting in the roof. That means in the market, which isn't a bad thing. It's now we got to have a plan to protect some of it and have the income bucket. But when you're just going to say, well, you know what, I'm just going to pull from my 401k IRA monies. I'm just going to pull from that. Well, the markets go down. It's kind of a double whammy, isn't it?
Well, it is. And that was illustrated, point blank during the what I call the lost decade of 2000 to 2009, right? 2000, 2000, 2001, and 2002, if you retired, say 1999, your S&P 500 returns for the first 3 years of retirement were minus 10, minus 12, and minus 23. Well, if you were taking out your rule of thumb 4% distribution, at the same time you're losing 10, 12, and 23%, you're shrinking your nest egg in a hurry, and people ran into trouble. And what happened was a lot of people went back to work. They had to unretire because their nest egg wasn't built to withstand that storm. And, for many people that maybe they hung in there and maybe it almost got back, they're trying to dig out of this sand pit because they built their house on sand. They almost got back to the top, but then 2008 came along and cracked them at the knees and they fell right back down to the bottom. So yeah, it's a totally different game when you hit the distribution phase of retirement. And that's when, hey, the paychecks stop and you've got to replace that. And it's not accumulation anymore. Ups and downs, like you said, in the market are fine when you're accumulating and you've got 10, 15, 20 years till retirement. That's great. You're buying stocks when they're on sale. But the game changes when you get in that red zone as you approach retirement and as you get into retirement. That 5 years on either side of that date are critical to determining the success of your retirement.